that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's when, we were relying on freaking Bill Gates for medical advice.
Hello. Welcome to the Hard Reset. What just happened?
All right. So what was the thing with the blanket again?
My dad told it to me a long time ago. It's a Native American quote talking about, basically, it says only a white man would believe you cut a foot off the top of the blanket and sew it onto the bottom of the blanket, and suddenly you have a longer blanket, right? Which is true. I mean, it's like, wondering like where all of our money comes from. Like, it's like people want free stuff or want whatever, and they don't understand the concept of like where money comes from. Like, you only have set amount of money, and
right.
Just because, you want something free or whatever, the money has to come from somewhere. So you can't just, in this case, cut the top off a blanket and sew it on the bottom of a blanket, and suddenly you have a longer blanket.
I mean, in theory, it sounds good.
I mean, well, that's what the, most politicians will lead you to believe is, that they can somehow, pull money and from off the top of something else and put it on something else, and then suddenly we have more money. No, what happens is it's kind of like the Pact Act that we were talking about. All it's doing is taking away from the total amount of money that's supposed to go to a certain place.
Right.
They're basically it's the sleight of hand. They're shuffling money from one thing to the other. And unfortunately, the money that gets taken away from, like that bill gets put in something else. There's no accountability for it. We have no idea where this money goes. And all it does is detract from whatever said bill was supposed to be. Anything. I mean, I'm a veteran. I'll be the first one to tell you, everybody loves a veteran, a veteran story or a veteran cause, right? So you had all these people going out there and, and donating money to Wounded Warrior and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And, there were some issues with that about money going where it was supposed to be going, whatever.
Right.
And so everybody will jump on board thinking that they're helping veterans and it's of no fault of their own, but they'll jump out there. And in this case, like, everybody will vote for a bill that's involving something, the care of veterans, right?
Yeah, our sympathy for
and they'll be chastised. Politicians will be chastised if they do not get on board of voting for something. And politicians use that against other politicians to make, whatever left or the right or whatever party it is that happens to be voting against it. They'll try to make them look like a bad guy without actually looking. It's a sleight of hand. They're using the veterans thing to kind of blind your sensibilities, your, figuring out the real answer.
Right.
In this case, why are they packaging? I never understood that anyways. The politicians do that both sides, where they'll get a bill and they'll put a bill out and they'll say, they'll have like a thing at the top of it, and it'll say, this is a veterans bill. And then they'll turn around and, they make the thing. I think Trump or one of them even said it, like, some of those bills are so long, they feels like they do it on purpose, because you can't possibly read like 4,000 some pages before you vote on something like that.
I think I saw where somebody said they should make it a law to where whoever's voting on this has to actually read it, or they get a fine or something.
Yeah, well, they send this is my understanding, and I could be wrong, but it's my understanding, and if it isn't, I'm almost for certain it is, but they're supposed to send this bill to whatever. If you have somebody that's voting on it, they send you a copy. So they'll send a copy to the office of whatever. And this politician may have his minions or whatever go through it and, highlight and kind of give them the highlights or whatever, but that shouldn't be the case. If you were voting on it, you should know what's in this.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm talking to the letter, page 4,517. You should know what, basically what's in that bill.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, they have counted on that fact that they know, a whole old sleepy politician that's going in there and you see him in the C-SPAN, like laying on the bench asleep, some old guy or whatever is supposed to be voting on this. I guarantee you he's not reading this stuff. And unless it's brought to his attention, or unless in this case they're trying to make another politician look bad, either side, he's not going to know. He's going to go in there and vote. They're going to say, okay, what's the point of this bill? Oh, it's for veterans. It's old American. I'll vote for that. Right. But in this case, like, they get caught on this Pact Act of saying, hey, they're trying to put an extra $400 billion in this thing to basically spend it on other things that's not involving this Pact Act, which again, my understanding and from what I just read, what we were just talking about is the Pact Act is basically for like toxins. In my day, like we had burn pits was, the thing in like Iraq in like 2003. We had, there's no nice way of saying it, but like we would basically dig holes and they would dump a bunch of ordnance in there and then they would set the ordnance off, basically to try to get rid of all this, like tons and tons of ordnance, weapons, ammunition, all this kind of stuff. And that's not including, we would literally burn shit.
So, you probably had like tires and everything else going on there, computer
equipment,
parts and
like whatever. Yeah. So you're, in the midst of the, what they call like the fog of battle, you're, on the battlefield, you're in these cities and, it's not uncommon for, everything to be burning, and it's already burning around you. And then in this case, like I was at Al-Kihara, I guess is what we call Q West Airfield. I think it got renamed at some point, but at least in 2003 or whatever, it was Al-Kihara. Q West Airfield is south of Mosul. They can't remember what happened. They blew up something, or maybe they dropped a bomb on something, but it set off of a sulfur. It was like a sulfur mine. There's a sulfur. Dear. So it's like that yellow sulfur that you see. Well, the thing burnt for like a week.
Oh my goodness.
And to the point to where it was literally like we were, like we go out on we call like an LPOP. So we would go out and we would overwatch like a main service route, we call MSR, that goes along, and it goes down. Eventually you turn off of that main service route and it goes to the entrance of Q West Airfield. They put us up on top of this big hill. We do rotations, I don't know how, like a week at a time, we'd rotate in, rotate out, whatever, sometimes 2 weeks. And we'd overwatch that MSR. Mainly we're looking for people planting IEDs, or, we'd basically kind of we'd overwatch the road. Well, we'd set up there in that LPOP, I can't remember what they call it, like Tiger West or something, Tiger North. And that thing burnt for like a week. We're like basically inhaling sulfur, burning sulfur dioxide or whatever it is. And I don't know what the official, whatever it is, but we were inhaling that stuff for like a week. It'd burn your eyes, like whatever. Now there's like, seriously, there's I guess class action lawsuits and all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, I imagine there is.
It's like the earplug thing. They had all these ads for the earplugs because the Army didn't have enough earplugs, and whatever else. They went in 3M earplug thing. You can get your $5, that you out of the settlement of however many, millions of dollars. Some lawyer did a class action lawsuit.
The lawyer made the most money off of that.
Yeah, he's kicking it in a small island in the Caribbean right now. That he's bought his own personal island, or his law firm, whatever, is going out on yachts, and then you get a check in the mail 5 years later for $2.50 as part of your settlement or whatever. But yeah, getting off topic, but things like that, I don't understand how they're allowed to put other things in the bill. Like, it has to have something to do with the bill, and somewhere along the line somebody has allowed that, and now it's like commonplace. Give them an inch, they take a mile.
Right. Well, yeah, especially with this particular bill is.
Well, it's happened a bunch. It happened during the Trump administration. A couple other bills, where they were, both sides have been caught one time or another, basically trying to slide stuff in at the last minute.
Yeah, and Republicans don't do it quite as much. Though. Yeah, I'm not trying to say it's right or wrong either way, but
yeah, I'm just saying politicians in general have been known to slide stuff in that's beneficial to them. Right. And it has nothing to do with, and again, everybody jumps on board when they see this Veterans, Care Act.
Well, that was my whole issue with it. And the point is, obviously, especially with this, is so it went from a discretionary, and then it got switched over to mandatory. And you can see the change in when it happened. But for whatever reason, you've got Jon Stewart up here just throwing a fit, cussing and everything else on television, and saying that nothing has changed from the original bill, which isn't true. I don't understand. So, at one point in time, I thought it'd be cool to have Jon Stewart as president. This goes back many years. Yeah. And now at this point, I can barely watch any of his stuff or listen to him. It's just, I even tried watching his new show that he had. Actually, I think that's going to get taken down soon, but it was horrible. It was white people need to apologize for being white is just like, where have you gone, John?
Super.
But anyways, yeah. So
super
John,
woke.
he's up here just cussing, saying nothing's changing this bill and saying Republicans are just holding it back. And then when you actually go watch like the C-SPAN recordings of it, it's like, no, it did get changed.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you not know this?
Well,
how are you going to get on public TV and national televised TV and not know what you're talking about? I mean, you and I occasionally, well, maybe 50% of the time we don't know what we're talking about, but on this one, we do know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And we will say when we don't know what we're talking about, or it might be wrong, or you should check it. He said none of that. He was just poor fact that
it's a one thing. Changed. It's a one thing to give your opinion, but when you're if you go on a rant per se about a specific topic, most people you would think that they would probably, especially with his level of notoriety, that you would probably want to get the facts straight before you go on. But here's the problem. Facts don't matter anymore. We're living in an upside down world.
I know we are, but they should matter, and especially
I agree,
because now you've got how many people right now think that Republicans do not give a crap about the veterans. They're trying to hold this up, and then what actually worked perfectly is because after he did that, now the Republicans had nowhere to go, so they went ahead and passed the bill anyways. It was going to get passed, but they passed it the wrong way. Mm-hmm. So now we've got this $400 billion that they can just do whatever they want with it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's when we were relying on freaking Bill Gates for medical advice
because
he is Bill Gates and he had a lot of money.
Yeah,
right.
No,
and again, I'm not beating up on Bill Gates, but I mean, he was apparently on the forefront of all this the Rona stuff.
What does he know about it? I mean, what was his qualifications?
Don't get me wrong, he's a smart guy.
I'm not saying he's not smart. I'm sure he's read plenty of books. Does
he have a PhD in virology or like what something along those lines? No.
Well, yeah, we're going to listen to Bill Gates, but the actual virologists and the people that actually worked on these projects.
Yeah. Well, we're
going to shut them up.
Yeah, my point of that is is it's essentially facts don't matter. It's all people are making a mistake. Yeah, they made the mistake in the first place to basically get their information from some actor. That's some actor throws a fit and goes on Twitter or does some kind of YouTube, video or a TikTok or something along those lines, and they start ranting about something. And just like this with the Jon Stewart thing, they go all in and they're like, it's Jon Stewart. He must be right. And so that's the only information. And again,
he claimed that he read it and nothing changed, which there's no way that he read it.
I mean, facts are facts. Changed. I mean, but again, we are living in an upside down world. Facts aren't, facts don't matter anymore. It's all perception. That becomes the new facts. It's all in what you can drown out other things with. In this case, he's going to go in and say something like that and scream to the heavens. And because he's getting the most airtime, that's now going to be facts.
Right.
Regardless of whether it's facts or not. Like 100 years from now, in the Library of Congress, they're going to go back and look at the transcripts of the C-SPAN, Pact Act and what they changed. And they're going to be like, yeah, they tried to slip this in. But, for everybody in the current living day from now until the next 75 years, if they don't have Alzheimer's and they can still remember Jon Stewart, they're going to believe Jon Stewart.
Right, yeah, the almighty Jon Stewart said this, so therefore it has to be true.
How many freaking celebrities have jumped on board something? They grabbed something that day and made headlines or made headlines on about some tweet saying something, going off the deep end about whatever it is,
there's all sorts of examples there.
You name your pick of gender identity, whatever the topic is. They go and throw a fit and do some kind of Twitter rant. Mm-hmm. By the way, the same thing that Trump would do was he's kind of a little laissez-faire with his Twitter account. So they would jump on board. A Tom Cruise or somebody jumps on there and they make a Twitter. I can't believe this, and this is the facts, and they put something out, and that's all the headlines. And then somebody comes along and looks at it, and they're like, that's not the facts at all. Like, that's completely like, where did he get this stuff at? And if you go in the comments and say, this is a what if, but say, Tom Cruise puts a Twitter thing out about something involving science. And it's just completely off the wall. Same deal. If you go in and you're a scientist, for example, and you know, like you've spent your whole adult life, PhD, all, you know, multiple PhDs in like whatever that topic is, and you go in there and you say, hey, I'm a doctor in this stuff, or I'm on the cutting edge of whatever he's talking about, and this is wrong, you'll have 400 people telling you that you're an idiot and that you live in your mom's basement and all this stuff. Basically, they'll attack you for even, you know, remotely saying anything, you know, negative or derogatory towards, you know, help me, Tom Cruise, you know, or whatever it is. It's just, it's ridiculous. I don't understand. People have lost the ability to be self-aware or, you know, or to source their own facts.
Right.
And it's like it's a lazy way of going about life. You know, in this case,
it's pretty lazy. Yeah.
I mean, I know everything's political and polarized and everybody just gets sick of it. And I mean, me, myself included, some days I wish I could just like, you know, somebody could just tell me what the right answer was.
There's a lot of people though that aren't political that I know. They don't care about politics one bit, but at the same time, they get fed a bunch of bad information and it doesn't change their day one way or the other, but they just have it in their head now that, oh, this is normal or what. It's kind of like there was a bunch of people, they were all excited that Biden got the gas prices down by 40 cents or whatever it was. Well, in reality,
and it went up
it's still up over $2 and some change from what it was. So he didn't get anything down. And technically, he didn't get anything down. Well, he shipped a bunch of our oil overseas.
I'm still trying to figure out what the gas prices went up in the first place. Can anybody tell me that, with a real answer? Because they're saying it has something involving the Ukraine
of why the gas prices went up.
Yeah,
I can tell you exactly why the gas prices went up. If you look back when Biden was running for president, he said that he was going to get rid of the oil industry. Yeah. So what ends up happening is the oil industry, they were like, well, if he's going to shut us down and get rid of our subsidies, then we're not going to keep doing drilling. And actually, he signed, I think it was over 60 executive orders when he first got into office that was all against oil companies. Yeah. So he got rid of
so is this part of the green deal or something? Like, was he really pushing the Green Deal?
I think he is. And we covered this, I think it was probably like 8 months ago, where I was shown where Germany, when they tried to go green, how they just completely destroyed their country for the most part.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're still recovering.
They're not going to recover from it. Yeah. And actually, Trump was spot on. Yeah, there's several meetings that I saw with him in Germany, and he told him, it's like, actually, he said word for word what is happening right now, which is I'm not trying to put Trump on a pedestal or shine the golden light on him, but everything that is happening to the country right now, he predicted.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen some of the snippets out there of him just saying stuff in speeches and, 20.
So, I mean, I know a lot of people says, he's stupid, he doesn't know what he's doing, or he's a failure as a businessman. It's like, you might want to rethink that one a little bit, because he's pretty spot on with everything.
Well, I mean, he's a businessman. And once you get to that level of business, you have to understand how the connectivity of basically things happen and it connects to other things. In other words, to be able to get ahead of something.
Oh yeah.
Right. You got to know if something over here happens, that this is going to happen. It's like all the stocks and all the stuff you're talking about. You're like, oh crap, you see this. It's like foreshadowing for something that's going to happen. And you know it's going to happen because if this happens, this is where it's going. When you're in business at his level, then it pays for you to be knowledgeable enough to know to get ahead of the curve that, hey, it's like looking at world events and you see, a certain area of the world, something's happening, say in the Middle East, that's going to affect oil production. What I'm saying? Or it's going to predict whatever. Something happens in, South Africa, it may, suddenly if your area is, say, diamonds, right? That's going to affect it. It's going to, it's either going to raise the value, lower the value. And that's how the rich stay rich or the rich get richer, is by being able to stay ahead of that power curve. He saw all this stuff And that's the reason why it seemed like almost like foreshadowing when he went over there, because he's like, if you try this Green New Deal stuff and you basically cut yourself off at the knees and you say, we're going to push this through in a short period of time, right? He was already anticipating, one, it's not possible. Like you can't.
No, it's not possible.
You can't get away from fossil fuels.
Well, you can't. The infrastructure is not in place yet. And regardless, what do you think the tires are made out of? What do you think the lubricants are made out of? It's all
petroleum products.
Where do you think the power to recharge all this stuff is coming from? This was another interesting, this is fact too. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to give out the hard numbers because I don't know them off the top of my head. But so Pete Buttigieg was asked about what uses more electricity, your refrigerator running or charging an electric car? Of course, he couldn't answer that.
Yeah.
A freaking electric car takes way more energy to charge than a refrigerator running. I think even AC units running.
Yeah.
It was insane. So it was like, so we don't even have the infrastructure to where if it gets, uncomfortably hot outside to where you have to have mandatory blackouts to help cut back because the grid can't handle it. How is the grid going to handle it when you've got,
I've seen the pictures of the
300 million people trying to charge
the standalone Tesla chargers.
Oh yeah, those are awesome. Giant diesel generator running.
It's literally like the industrial, diesel generator. It's like the ones that they use to power hospitals or whatever in the event of like some kind of blackout. It's sitting over here and it's powering these standalone Tesla chargers. How is that not? I mean, and again, with the green thing, I get it, man. That would be super great if we all lived in hobbit huts that was powered by windmills and, we're like, Frodo Baggins or whatever. And we have grass growing on top of our houses.
Frodo Baggins.
Whatever. Bilbo Baggins or whatever his name is. And, everything's run by solar panels and, wind turbines and all that stuff. But the problem is if you break down each and every one of those things, one, solar panels, if you don't know, are not efficient enough at the current, at basically all the petroleum products. And it's much like what you're talking about, all the products that going to build these solar cells basically it costs more money in these petroleum products to build the frames and the crystal, whatever that's in the solar panels. It would take like 1,000 years for it to be able to pay off, right? Same thing with these giant windmills, right? Which by the way, are all over. I just was up in Northwest Indiana going up 69.
Oh yeah, isn't that cool?
And they're everywhere. There's fields of them. Half of them's not running.
I was going to say, half of them don't run. And it's cheaper.
It's colossal. If you ever get time, go Google videos of like what happens to one of those when like one of the fans break or something. It like destroys itself. It's awesome.
They catch on fire.
It's like epic, dude. But same thing with those. The costs. If people don't realize, like if they've ever seen one of these big windmill things, right? People don't realize how enormous those things are. Like you don't realize it until it's on the ground. I've seen one shipped by rail, right? And like one of those blades that are shipped by rail, just one blade takes.
Where are you gonna find like the straightest rail track in the world?
No, they have these weird, basically like it's a series of cars that are like flexible joint things. What I don't know. Somehow it echelons above my engineering thing.
Oh no, I get that part of it, which I understand. It's just how in the world you make a corner with one of those.
Yeah, well, I know.
As far as I know, trains don't do like 90.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's for the most part, it's point A to point B, and then I'm sure at that point, then it turns into like some semi that's got a big escort that finishes the route or whatever. But one of those things are so huge, and then on top of all that, everybody's heard the stories about when they basically take them out of service, they can't do anything with those blades, so they just freaking dig a hole and they bury them. There's like whole fields of these things.
No, there is a company that's trying to recycle those.
Yeah.
But it's not actually, it's just not cost effective.
Sign me up for stock in that company, because if they manage to,
they don't make any money on it though.
Oh, well, I'm going to say if they solve that problem,
money. They shred them up and it goes into, this is awesome too. Now I think about it. So this is what they do with it. They recycle them And this is, they're mostly composite fiberglass blades. So they'll shred them into like a fine powder almost. And then I think they actually the process of making concrete requires heat for, I think, the lime or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But anyway, so concrete producers that makes the mix, they will buy, or I feel like the documentary I saw, so this company actually pays the concrete company to use these, and that's what they use to heat their furnaces. So now they're burning them. So it's like, what's that doing to the atmosphere?
I was going to say, what about all the toxins that are coming out of fiberglass?
Yeah,
I mean, I thought you were going to say maybe they were using them in the concrete.
No, that's when I was watching. That's where I thought they were going with it. But like, no, we use this to actually heat the furnaces.
Because I would think the weaving from the the fiberglass or whatever, the fibers, whatever you want to call it, would make the concrete more flexible, or
make it stronger. Because you do actually
less prone to break or whatever.
Sometimes. Yeah. So that was a kind of interesting. And again, let's just go back to Germany. Germany has already tried the whole entire solar and wind turbine thing, and it did not work for them. Actually, it was completely disastrous, and they couldn't provide enough energy. And then, of course, obviously now they're buying their energy from Russia, which Trump said, you guys need to quit buying your energy from Russia. And they laughed at him, of course. Bad orange man. So.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of them are buying it from Russia. They're buying it from China. Why? Because they don't care about EPA restrictions. And so